Hi, folks, and welcome to Gersnet, the Independent Rangers, a website, YouTube channel, and all-round social media pile-on by Rangers fans, for Rangers fans, where all your content is absolutely free. Coming to you in association with Forrest Precision Engineering. My name's Alec Anderson. I'm speaking to you on the evening of Monday, the 21st of November, 2022, doing a really bad Fiona Bruce impersonation to bring you the not in any way breaking news that Giovanni van Bronckhorst has been sacked as manager of Rangers. Giovanni van Bronckhorst is no longer Rangers manager. Gio is gone. Douglas Park, around 10:30 this morning, issuing the kind of statement that chairmen are wont to issue in these situations, thanking Gio for all his efforts at the club, thanking him in particular for providing their first Scottish Cup in 13 years and laying on only the fifth European final in the club's history, and wishing him all the best for the future. Are we, as a support, surprised that Gio has been sacked? No, not in any way, but are we a bit caught out by the timing of the announcement? Yes, yes, we are. Look, last Saturday lunchtime, a week past on Saturday, down in Paisley, we had a risible performance, and even worse than that were the post-match interviews, in which Gio looked like a man who, no pun intended, was resigned to his fate. He looked like he wanted his contract to be terminated. The players, their body language had been shocking all through the game. There was reports of fallouts between the players and the management during the game and at half-time. So it looked like the writing was on the wall. We knew the club weren't exactly going to pull the trigger on the bus back to Auchenhowie. You weren't also expecting any kind of announcement on the Sunday. Club of Rangers size, you do these things respectfully, you do them properly, you do your due diligence when you make a decision of this kind of magnitude. You give it 24 to 48 hours at least after any kind of bad result. But when it got to kind of Monday, Tuesday, and we knew Gio was back in the Netherlands, a bit of R&R with his family, you're thinking this is the time to do it. This is the time this is a kind of situation where these things usually happen. But it didn't happen. And then to make things stranger, what really caught us out was the extended interview on Sky Sports News on Friday with Gio and his Rangers training gear, sitting at Auchenhowie, and essentially reviewing his year in the job at that point, but talking about it in terms of it's his first year, and he would be back. It sounded like he was going to be back on the 15th of December for the resumption of the domestic season against Hibs at Ibrox. Now, of course, I'm reading now in various sources that these interviews, that interview in particular was filmed weeks ago, and it was just the airing of it that's a bit clumsy, but it certainly made it a bit strange today when that announcement was made. My first thought was, the date, 21st of November 2022, 21st of November 2021, Gio was sat in the main stand at Hampden as Rangers were bumped unceremoniously out of the League Cup by Hibs. We looked rudderless, we were managerless, Steven Gerrard having just left. And Gio didn't take over to the next day. So a part of me today was wondering, did the Rangers board just not want to be responsible for employing a manager who lasted less than a year? So they gave him exactly 365 days in the job, just made him hang on till today. So they didn't look so bad. But obviously you would hope it was actually a bit of succession planning, and they were making sure that they've got a replacement lined up, or they've got some contacts and people ready to take over, so we're not leaving the club without a manager altogether. But even if that's the case, that interview going out on Friday makes it look kind of extra cold to have sacked him a few days later. So cold, in fact, I have to say it reminded me of The Godfather, when Michael Corleone stands as godfather to his sister and his brother-in-law's child shortly before he has that brother-in-law Carlo murdered. That little farce you played with my sister. Do you think that could fool a Corleone? Getting us to a European final, do you think that could fool the Rangers board? You either win the league title at Rangers or you get yourself garroted in the passenger seat by Pete Clemenza. So Gio's gone. Capsule review of his time at Rangers. Some absolutely massive highs for this generation of Rangers supporters, and some massive lows, so low that they're actual historic lows in the 150 years of Rangers Football Club. And it got to the stage that the lows were outdoing the highs. Gio started like a steam train. He won his first 7 league games in charge without conceding a goal. His very first game in charge was a 2-0 win over Sparta Prague, which revived a flagging European season, the first bad European season that Steven Gerrard had And Gerrard's Rangers were already stumbling domestically as well at the beginning of last season. And I think we have to, it's actually, when you think about it in detail, the cold hard stats, Gio only lost one domestic game at Ibrox, but it was a biggie. It was to Celtic last season after we'd taken an early lead. And that's the way it was going. That's kind of that game, if anyone did kind of confirm that we weren't going to win the league last season. He's got a fantastic record in the Cup. I mean, he won the Scottish Cup this season, their first Scottish Cup in 13 years, as I say, a fantastic day against Hearts at Hand in the end, and a magical moment to see Rangers post-2012 winning the Scottish Cup again, something we really needed. He won that Scottish Cup conceding only one goal, and with an epic semi-final win over Celtic after extra time to boot. We've only played a couple of League Cup games this season, but only conceded one goal, and that's, so he's essentially unbeaten in Scottish Cup competitions, if you want to put it that way. He only lost one knockout competition in the whole time he was at Rangers, and that was to Eintracht Frankfurt after extra time on penalties in Seville in a European final, only the fifth European final in Rangers history. I'll always be grateful to Gio for getting us to that European final, and I think every single one of us are forever indebted to him for the most magical European run that I've experienced in my life. I think it's only rivalled in historic terms by the run in the 92-93 initial Champions League, and the 71-72 season, the winning of the Cup Winners' Cup, the only time Rangers won a European trophy. Those are the only times that Rangers have really come close to achieving the kind of relentless magic and entertainment and just sheer winningness of that Europa League post-Christmas run last season. It was absolutely magical, and it swept away a lot of the cobwebs still remaining from the banter years post-2012. Always be grateful to Gio for that. But it was the defeats, the nature of the defeats. Losing 3-0 to Celtic at Parkhead, well, 3-0 down at half time back in February, could have been 5 or 6 at that point, and then repeating that this season again at Parkhead, looking like we hadn't learned a single lesson, augmenting that, compounding that by then losing our following game 4-0 to Ajax in the Johan Cruyff Arena, the first time in Rangers history that they lost 2 successive games by 4 goals to 0. Gio was criticised straight after the Europa League final last season because he seemed to have blown with that and blown the lead that he'd had in the title race. He was blowing the 2 direct routes into this season's Champions League group stage. Well, he's then come back this season and he's got us into the Champions League group stage with 2 phenomenal performances against Union St-Gilloise in the second leg and over the 2 legs against PSV Eindhoven. And again, in typical fashion, just the way it's been going, not just for Gio, but for Rangers as a club in our kind of 1 step forward, 2 steps back recovery from 2012. We then go into that Champions League group stage and don't only register the worst group stage performance in Rangers history, but the worst group stage performance in the history of the Champions League. The style of football was waning. It was getting harder and harder to watch. And as I say, the players themselves were totally disaffected. In mitigation, we had the moving of last season's winter break being moved forward to interfere with a time where Rangers were, as I say, really rolling. They were really looking great under Gio when he'd first arrived. Joe Aribo at the Africa Cup of Nations and Alfredo Morelos playing for Colombia in South America in the Colombia squad at a time when we really needed them back at Ibrox, and that didn't help our restart to the season after last season's winter break. We've got the injuries this season. I think the situation we've got at centre half just now is absolutely appalling. It's really just a function of the condensing of the Champions League group stage to get European football's group stages out of the way before this horrific ongoing human rights abuse that is the World Cup in Qatar. So there was plenty of mitigation for Gio, plenty of things that went against him, but ultimately it's the right decision. And so we move on to debating and the rumour mongering and wondering who we're going to get in to replace him. And you've got to think that the upcoming AGM in the 6th of December had a big bearing on the board's decision, because with no football being played by Rangers before then, there's no way to improve the mood. that's going to be prevalent at that AGM without actually getting rid of the manager. So now they can have a big kind of manager reveal party. You know, this board likes to monetize things. They can start selling kind of ginger coloured balloons if you think it's going to be Sean Dyche who's getting the job, or kind of maroon coloured balloons if you think it's going to be Robbie Nielsen. And you've got Michael Beale, who we've gone from thinking he was too good to be brought back to Rangers because he was getting offers from English Premier League clubs, to now thinking that he was actually courting us when he was in the main stand in the Loudon for the recent Aberdeen game, as Queen's Park Rangers' form has just fallen through the floor. But there are plenty of options out there. There'll be plenty of rumours kicking about. And the way the board are operating, they're actually probably making an announcement about the new manager right now. But the main thing is, guys, I just wanted to check in with you. We thought there wouldn't be much happening Rangers-wise after that Sky Sports exclusive on Friday there. Made it look like Gio was going to be in the job. So all your volunteer contributors on Gersnet have been taking a wee holiday to themselves. But it's just to let you know that like Colin and myself in particular, maybe try and get something out tomorrow, something a bit more in-depth, kind of reviewing Gio's Ibrox reign and having a bit more of a look at who we could possibly get in to replace him. And we'll have a bit more Rangers content coming out to you in the next few days. So for me, I think that's more than enough of the sound of one hand clapping. And I hope you're managing to enjoy bits of this World Cup anyway. And we'll talk to you soon, guys. Thanks very much. Cheers.